original personnel and everybody else who might be listening in. It's Loretta Smith here, and I want to remind you that you are listening to the Retro TV Trivia Podcast with Pat McCormack, and me too sometimes.
Greetings, fellow classic TV fans, and welcome to Retro TV Trivia. I'm your host, Pat McCormack, from the Golden Age of TV. On today's podcast, I'm speaking with my dear friend, the lovely Kathy Garver from Family Affair. We discuss her behind-the-scenes days playing heartthrob Sissy Davis and her positive experiences working with producer Ed Hartman. We also touch on the short stint of movie star John Williams filling in for an ailing Sebastian Cabot. Her always awesome merchandise is talked about, including some great gift ideas like her new Firestar cinnamon-scented candle and her new Family Affair scrapbook. Enjoy! Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my dear friend, Kathy Garver. Kathy!
Hello there, Pat, and happy birthday on this beautiful day.
Who told you it was my birthday?
Oh, a little elf just climbed up and stood on my shoulder and whispered in my ear.
It could have been either that or it was just me. Hey, Kathy, you know, today is my 59th. I didn't say that, but it was kind of like... Oh, I appreciate that. And we're good friends, so we see all this stuff on Facebook when we can keep our dates together. I am so happy to be talking to you because, you know, how do you find time in your schedule to do any of this? You're just working.
It's because I don't complete one thing at a time. I get bored, and so I go from one thing, and I said, oh, but I should do that, and I should do that, and then I should do that. But then finally, at the end of the day, it's all wrapped up into a bundle, and I get most things done. Because as an actress and a writer and a host and a voiceover person and different things. That's one thing. But I also run the household and make sure the plants are done and make dinner almost every night and gather information for a new cookbook or whatever. It's just that, God forbid, I should ever slow down. They say, oh my goodness, is this what life is? I thought it was just doing all these fun things.
Yeah, I don't foresee that ever happening.
I don't either.
And I know you like to do the holidays up. You guys are big into the celebration. And I was curious, do you set up early for it, or are you kind of like a right after Thanksgiving kind of family?
Well, as old as I am, and I'm a little bit older than 59, as some people, but I have my 31-year-old son and his fiancée that have lived with us for 10 years. Well, my son's always lived. He never left home. He did for about 3 months. I went to school, and that was it. So, like, my chicks never fled the nest. They just bring people in to live with us into the nest too. So these kids love to celebrate early, and they love all the holidays. So we had just for Halloween, we kind of went with a fall decor. So we have wreaths on the door that are like autumn wreaths. And you walk in and there's a big sign that says autumn and pumpkins galore. Now, for Halloween, we added some cats and some ghosts and some different kinds of ribbon that had jack-o'-lanterns on them. And so, as a matter of fact, I was just putting out, and I had taken the Halloween decor down, but the boxes were still in the dining room. So the wreaths could primarily stay up, and the pumpkins, these big fake pumpkins, I think I got them at Costco, but they've lasted like 5 or 6 years. So they got off of the dining room table, and I made it more of a quiet decor for this Thanksgiving that my kids invited, or actually my great-grandnephew said, oh, let's have Thanksgiving at Aunt Kathy's house. And let's bring my twins, who are now 3 years old, and their older brother, who is like 5. I said, oh, okay. When they were here before COVID, these kids are so energetic. They're running all over and breaking glass casseroles. So my son, Missouri, says, Mom, maybe we shouldn't have this glass casserole. You know, those baker's tin, and we'll do a buffet. And I said, I'm liking that idea. And he said, and then we don't have to do any dishes. Okay, there's method behind your madness. But I am going to task my son with putting up at least the Christmas lights now, because that's, this is a holiday season, and Thanksgiving we love Thanksgiving. There's so many things that we have to be thankful and grateful for and blessed for. And these kids recognize it. My son and my husband, as you know, he fell down a 180-foot cliff.
Yes.
Where we live in Bell Canyon, and he is still recovering. But we are grateful that he does not know the twins are coming yet. Mom, save that for the end. Don't tell that yet. We'll just surprise him. And I said, oh, well, I don't know. And he said, yeah, okay. So we're going to put up the lights, and then we usually go the day after Christmas to get the tree. But I have a feeling that maybe we'll go and we'll give something, and the little kids can help decorate it, and maybe they can make some decorations, keep them busy so they don't break glass casseroles.
Yes. Well, and we're the same. It's like we have, it's funny. We live kind of parallel lives. Everything you've just described is basically happening here. And I don't know who's coming, so that I'm blissfully unaware of what's happening there. But, right after Thanksgiving, we go right into the Christmas mode. And, finally I broke down and got one of those fake prop-up trees, which I'm thinking is the anti-Kathy Garver method of putting a Christmas tree up.
When we were in Northern California, we would always go to the Christmas lot, our favorite Christmas lot over in Half Moon Bay. And it's where you chop your own tree down. But of course, then we always got the owner to chop it down for us.
Yes.
We'd pick it out. But it was that's the tree that we want. We get it on the top of our roof and of the car and drive it back. But now that we're in LA, I don't even know where there's a Christmas tree lot here in urban Southern California. So we've gotten it the last couple of years at a nice Christmas tree lot. But I have to prepare in advance because I give a lot of presents, and I have a new sissy spray and a new sissy candle that I'm going to give to a lot of people. That's a cranberry kind of scent. Last year it was like a pine scent, but this year the candles are cranberry and the spray is cranberry. And I'm going to have a bell book and candle in one of my bundles, which will be my newest book, which is the Family Affairs scrapbook, and then a little bell, and then the Christmas candle. Do you know where Bell Book and Candle emanates? Do you know what movie?
Oh, I didn't know there was going to be a test.
I'm sorry, and I forget the name of it myself.
Okay, good. I feel so bad. Please share it with my listeners.
Bell Book and Candle, and it was about a witch. I don't know which witch, but it's about a witch. But this is a bewitching Christmas, so I'm going to have a Bell Book and Candle in a bundle with a tote bag with a logo of our Family Affair family, with Uncle Bill and Mr. French and Buffy Jody and me, Sissy, with a Happy Holidays wreath.
Oh, that's wonderful. And folks, Kathy, usually her merchandise is some of the best you can find when it comes to what celebrities have to offer. I highly recommend, everything. Because I've been able to be the lucky recipient of some of your Christmas deliveries. And as a matter of fact, I have the Family Affair scrapbook in my hands right now.
Yeah, that was a fun book to put together. And just right when we were doing Family Affair, like 70s is really when it started, even though our show started in 1966. But merchandise was just coming into be and into play. And as you know, Disney makes most of its money from its merchandise, from its dolls and its candles and its clothes and whatever once the movie is out. But Family Affair started putting out paper dolls and coloring books and Viewmasters and all kinds, and of course the iconic lunch boxes.
Yeah.
So I kind of kept up the tradition with my sissy products, but my stepson actually makes the soy candles, which are nice and they don't burn smoke. So they're all handmade. Everything is handmade. So that's, except for the bells. I bought those at Michael's.
Oh, well, speaking of candles, now I looked through your site and I noticed something. Maybe this isn't new, and shame on me for not seeing it sooner, but there's a Firestar candle.
Yes. And that's Cinnamon, because she's just full of energy and fire. So my character as Firestar in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, I have a special candle for her, and she is still as vibrant, and even more so, I think, now than when I first created her voice for the Spider-Man series. And there is like a 6-inch figure of her that came out last year, and this year is a 12-inch statue of Firestar, all done by Marvel. And so she's a pretty dynamic character.
And it mirrors her voice actor. I mean, that's it.
I hope I gave her life.
Well, you did. And I can't imagine, I mean, if they were to reestablish these characters, you know, I would like to think your name would be the top of the list to bring back Firestar, because, again, I put up pictures of, hey, I'm talking to my friend Kathy Garver, and what I get back is she looks so good. And I'm like, well, I know she looks good, but you should hear her.
And this is why I love you, Pat.
Well, it's mutual and it's honest. I'm being honest. You have such a youthful everything about you, but that voice, you know, is well, it doesn't age. And I'm curious, would that be a possibility if they were to bring Firestar back? Would you go for that role, or would you just give it to somebody new?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, I think you know that we have a pilot for Aunt Sissy, and I love my characters that I did. I feel very personal about them, and they're mine. Even when they tried to do a remake of Family Affair, which did not do well, I had a cameo, but I'm thinking, no, it's much better to do a sequel for a show than to remake a show, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The people fall in love with those original characters. They want to know what happens to them, like Jerry Mathers, and you know what happened to them when he grew up, et cetera, and the Brady Bunch when they grew up, and they use the same people. In animation, it's even easier because we're just using our voice. And my voice could be higher like Firestar, or it could be a lower, older Firestar telling the younger Firestar what to do. As a matter of fact, that's kind of an interesting concept to bring to them. And I think that she should have her own show. The Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, that was Stan Lee's one of the first times and the first time that he brought characters directly to a show instead of them starting out in a comic book and then their next step going to an animated show.
Right.
So they were always original. And I think for Firestar to have her own show, and especially with this interest with the characters coming, and maybe there's going to be a Funko out, and I think now's the time. Now's the time.
I agree. Where do we write our letters? Where do we start this trend?
Yeah, I'm going to find out. Yes, and we can. It started right here on Pat McCormick's podcast.
I was going to say, wow, does this make me a producer?
Yes, it does, and a creator.
An executive producer? Wait, that's the guy that pays the money, right? No.
Right. If you want to do that, that's good too.
I was going to say, no, can't be me. At least not this year.
Okay, how about producing then? That you are a very productive fellow.
I will go
and
with
very
that.
creative. There we go.
I will go with that. Oh, thank you, dear
Okay.
one. I call her dear one because you can hear why. Yeah. That and the Energizer Bunny. And of course, you can hear why that is too. But Kathy, your career has just been so illustrious, and that it still just keeps going and going. And people now know where I got the Energizer Bunny from. But I know you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot of commercial work, cameos here and there, just shooting pilots. And it just seems like every time I log on, check out what Kathy's doing, it's always something. And it's always something really cool. And man, I'm in awe.
Well, when I taught voiceover, how to do character voices and narration and audio books, industrials, everything, and in the voiceover field. But I would tell my students, I said, you have to be skilled if you want to last a long time in this business. I started when I was 7, and decades later, I'm still going, as you say, like the Energizer Bunny. But sometimes people in the business tend to pigeonhole themselves, and maybe that's good for their brand and they can stay on one path. But personally, because I'm a Sagittarius, I think, and I like a lot of different things going on. But I also think that it is good advice to develop your skills in many different areas in the entertainment field. So not only, can you be a voice actor, you can be an on-camera actor, and you don't have to just all do comedies or all do dramatic shows, and you can hone your ability for the stage and for all the different kinds of platforms that are here today. This Christmas, I'm doing staged readings of A Christmas Memory by Truman Capote.
Oh, yes.
And this is a wonderful story. On this end, I do it on the stage with a background of pictures from this book that he had written called A Christmas Memory. I'm doing that at the Hollywood Heritage Museum across from the Hollywood Bowl, and I'm doing it at the Westlake Yacht Club, which is down the street from me, from a special thing. But it's nice to do stage, and also we're doing a live streamer of that, so people can go to my website. And this is so blatant. Sorry about that, Pat.
Please do.
At www.kathygarver.com, and they can find when it's going to stream. And even if someone is in New York or New Hampshire or Ohio or wherever they are, or I think we're only going to do it nationally, not internationally, but they can find out, and they can actually hear this, gather people around the computer or the TV and stream it. And it will be a nice little holiday. They can form a holiday memory.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll be there for sure. And I'll leave links to everything that we talk about here today in the description. It was like you're saying, diversify. Well, now I'm a podcast host. Look at this.
Yes. Isn't that nice?
I think so.
And you started out with your retro. Yeah. And you had such a good concept. And, that's what is admirable when you have an idea, and so many people have ideas, but there it is just in one's head, and they say, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Unless you get out, you do it, you do the work, to actually see it through, and then it's so satisfying. And you've done such a great job, and then you say, well, we could grow it from here, and then we could grow it from there. But you got to do the work. And
no escaping that, and the research, and all of the above. I mean, not to mention if you can't afford a technical crew, which I get the reason why a lot of these hosts have separate technical crews, because it seems to be a little overwhelming in that way. Good old technology. We're going to make it easier for you.
But you've learned so much from it, and then taken it and gone and run with it.
That's it. That's the beauty of all of it, because you can learn. And thank you, tutorials, for teaching us to do everything. It's good old YouTube. You can just get in and ask it anything, and there's the answer.
Right. And I must applaud my son, because he had an idea, and he decided he was going to do with it. Not great big idea, but this is a DIY. And we have this 3-car garage, and we moved down here, and the garage was just full of boxes because up in Northern California, we had an attic, we had a basement, but we don't. Southern California doesn't have attics and basements.
Mm-hmm.
It's flat. They build things on, a stone platform.
Right.
And so he decided just about 3 weeks ago that he was going to clear out all the boxes of one of the garages, which we did. We threw all the stuff away. And he hand built and hand put together this bar and 2 chairs, hand put together perfectly a table and 2 other chairs, painted all the walls. There was an unfinished part of the garage that had this insulation. He took down all the insulation and exposed these wonderful beams. And he did this all and perfectly. And then he got some flags on Amazon. And there was a refrigerator there and like a little microwave. Well, he just finished out Reed's Brewery yesterday and is going to have a cold beer to celebrate this fabulous space that he hand did everything.
Wow.
So,
well, what time do you want me over?
I have to applaud my son. Yeah, come on over for a cold beer in Reed's Brewery.
Reed can not only do that kind of stuff, but I do know he can cook too. Not that I've been lucky enough to enjoy that, but he's a talented guy, that's for sure.
Fabulous, fabulous cook. He really is.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's great. Yeah. Well, I do need to address the elephant in the room. If I'm using that term correctly, it's called family affair. We've been talking about it off and on here, but I was looking through the scrapbook here, which, folks, you got to get this. It's not only just a great book to have, keep on your coffee table or whatever, a gift for a fellow enthusiast. It's just great. It's a great companion with Surviving Sissy, of course, your autobiography, which is the first thing I ever really studied up on your fascinating life, and highly recommend that too. But it's been a couple of years since I read that, so I had kind of catch up. Where was I? I wanted to ask you about Ed Hartman. This guy seemed to really be, what's for lack of a better term, Sissy's champion. Or maybe the whole show's champion. Is that accurate? Did you still have if it wasn't for him, this may not have happened? That kind of a feeling?
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. He was a really fascinating figure, a brilliant man. And he was the president of the Writers Guild. And he had done so many of the Abbott and Costello movies and produced them and then made the transition. And he did My Three Sons and then Family Affair. So first, he was a very talented, bright man. Secondly, he had this wonderful part about him, and he felt good about leading people along some of the paths that he thought were important to them at different parts of their lives. And he was the one from, this story that I have told many times, but when I was first going to get the job and they wanted a blonde and I had dark hair and my mom came over to the sorority and took me to this interview and I'm sitting there because she, before we left, had sprayed my hair with the streaks and tips and turned it this kind of bronze color and hard like a metal helmet. We walk in and I'm sitting and having such a nice conversation with this lovely man. And then he says, "What's wrong with your hair?" And I said, "My hair?" He said, "Yes, it's turning green." And I said, "Oh, it must be the light." And we just got along. So we got along so well. And he guided me. He said, "This is a book. I think that you should join the Book of the Month Club. And also, here's a wonderful book that you should read. That's Watson and Crick's."
Right. Is that the genetics code?
Yes, the genetics code and how they discovered DNA. I had told him I started out at UCLA as an anthropologist and I wanted to know the answer of life. Why are we all here? So he listened to people and he pointed them in the right direction. And it was, as a matter of fact, I'm friends with his grandson now. And we just were in Palm Springs doing a celebrity cook-off for the Parkinson's research person. And Ed, I know, was there sitting right down with us, having some of the food. His spirit and his brilliance still remains.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, I was looking into him, and he's just what a fascinating visionary,
Yes. Visionary is a good word.
He really helped the evolution of the classic TV sitcom with lots of color.
Yes, lots of color, because ours was one of the very first shows of color.
Yeah.
And that's why they had that kaleidoscope and to remind people, just if they didn't realize they were watching a show in color, well, here it is. So,
yeah. What a brilliant move, too. I mean, I vividly remember that as a child when it was on first run and just going, oh, this show's for me. What do you mean I can't stay up to watch it? There's kids in it. I don't understand.
Yeah. That's because they thought that the real appeal was going to be this wonderful debonair bachelor, Brian Keith.
Brian Keith audience, yeah.
Yes, and who are his, different people that he would be going out with. And then these little kids would just be on the side, oh, yes, I have children living with me now. But, the twins were so cute, and here was a nice, bubbly little teenager. And I said, oh, well, those are kind of nice people, and I want to know more about them. Let's write some more stories about them.
And by the way, there's a total heartthrob on this show. I can't miss it. And I'm so in love with her. But enough about Buffy. I was actually...
She was too young for you.
Yes, she was. Well, actually, she was right about my age. But the fact is, I had a crush on you, sissy. I'm sorry. Just like me, like every other red-blooded, all-American boy. But, of course, that was it.
Yes, and Sissy was a cougar.
Yes.
Sissy cougar.
And man, they dolled you up in every possible way. Your poor hair, I think, was probably the most victimized. Rather than your mom trying to color it, you had how many different hairstyles did Sissy have?
Well, she had a lot. And, it's interesting because I was the only one that changed during that series and had an arc, as they call it now, because Buffy stayed the same with a little pigtails and Johnny had the curly hair. Brian's hair changed a little bit, but he was basically the same character. And Sebastian, of course, wore the same thing, the whole thing. Well, and so they're more memorable in some ways because you immediately say, oh yeah, Buffy pigtails, Sebastian, the outfit of the butler and the man's man. Sissy, oh yeah, she changed all the time. Yeah, there was Sissy. Sometimes she wore her hair on the side, and then sometimes it was really long. And I think in the 5th season, she just cut it all off. So here I was, this emerging personality and changing from this little girl from Indiana with ribbons in my hair to this sophisticated woman who emerged after 5 years.
Well, isn't that it? That's so interesting, too, because obviously that's what happens in real life. And basically they let you emulate what real life of a teenager is. Whereas your poor on-screen sister, they tried to keep her the same age. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Anissa definitely had to wear smaller than she should have to shoes and clothes, and they tried to keep Buffy a baby.
Yeah, at least a 6-year-old. And and in the show, she was went from like 6 to 8 or whatever. And she started out that show at 9, so she was really almost up to 14, still wearing short dresses. She did kind of push Mrs. Beasley aside that last year, but it was hard for her, and especially hard for her to go back to school and people, see her. And she never really had that time, that tween time that is such an important time for kids when they're growing up and try to find their own identity. Very difficult.
Yeah.
But she was a wonderful, beautiful heart and spirit and soul.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. Yeah. Well, now again, you were the heartthrob. You were we've got to keep everything beautiful about Sissy, and the actress had no problems doing that. I wonder, the networks, did you ever have any and early on here, they got kids on the show. You weren't a kid. Of course, you were kind of like Buffy. You were playing a kid, but I was curious, and I am curious about this, about what restrictions they put on you and maybe the kids. Maybe that would have been completely different, but here you're on a hit show. You are not to go horseback riding. You are not to go scuba diving. You are not to do anything that can damage you. Was there ever anything like that?
They really didn't do that. And that's why Anissa wound up with green hair one season, because she would go swimming in the pool and her hair was peroxided. And so she would have green hair like I started out with on the show. Or there was the unfortunate occasion when she broke her leg and then was wearing a cast and then put her behind couches or whatever.
Ouch.
They were pretty non-restrictive with our personal lives. But when we were actually doing the show, I wanted my dresses shorter. I wanted to be, really kind of hip, the 60s look, right, with the boots and the mini skirts. Well, no, they weren't going to hear about that. They wouldn't mind maybe if I went to a disco on my own time, but on set, all the wardrobe and everything was much more in a conservative vein, which would last much longer. And I found out after my rebellion of saying, "Oh, I want to have shorter skirts," and mine were not, and that this show you can look at, and you would even think now it is of our era and of our decade, from the living room, to the things that people wore. Of course, Sebastian wore his uniform, and the kids were, kids' clothes don't change that much. But mine, I could still wear some of those things today if I weren't 10 pounds heavier.
Oh, jeez, come on. Well, I mean, it was very modern, and that was what was really cool. You really felt like this is cutting edge now. This is not only cutting edge now, this is Rich Bachelor cutting edge now, whatever that means. But yeah, it was very slick, very stylish.
Yes.
And what was the other question I had for you about the show? Oh, I just put up graphics of different actors and folks, just to remind folks, this is what they did, this is what they were on, this and that. And I had one of John Williams. And John Williams, not the composer, folks. I'm talking about John Williams, the movie star, also a movie star, who filled in for Sebastian as Niles French. And I should know off the top of my head just how long he was there for, but I don't. The question I had for you, though, was that a smooth transition while it was there, or did you find it uncomfortable to work with him comparatively, or what was your take on John Williams?
I love John Williams. I just thought he was so good, and he played Sabrina's father, Audrey Hepburn's father, in Sabrina, and he had played that kind of English distinguished gentleman butler, and he was so good, but he was so personable and so real, and I just adored him. I mean, I would have loved for him to stay the whole show, but I like Sebastian too. But Sebastian had a whole different kind of take on it. John was actually much more refined than Sebastian, and so Sebastian was more of a character that he invented, whereas John, he was like the real deal in many ways. And I just thought he was terrific. I so enjoyed working with him, and I welcomed Sebastian back. But I really did admire him so.
Yeah, it was a great casting choice. Like I said, yes. I'm a big Hitchcock fan, and I thought he was just brilliant in Dial M for Murder. It was.
Oh, yes.
He really carried that movie. I mean, not like those actors needed any help, but he really was almost like the comic relief. the smart guy. I mean, he he was just wonderful in that. And I just thought I'd ask, see what your memories were, and thank you for that.
Oh yeah, no, he was very, very good. He was on for about 9 episodes, and just because of the way we shot, and Sebastian went out because of his hand, and he had some other medical problems, but he was ready to come back, in like 2 weeks. But we shot scenes from like 4 different shows each day, all the ones that Brian Keith was in. So we had to match them, and that's why he was on longer than Sebastian was chomping at the bit to get back in.
Oh.
But he did eventually, and he was just jolly, quite jolly, I must say.
But not really the Mr. French you see on TV in real life.
No, I mean, I went over to his house, and he's in his warm-ups, and he's just comfy, and he never had any formal training or education for that. I mean, he left school. He didn't even go to an English high school. So his was more, his way of understanding life was through real experiences rather than any kind of literary teaching or any formal acting teaching. He got it from, he was a chauffeur. And as a driver, he was driving one of the top stars in England, and he got most of his training from him.
Isn't that something? I did not know that. Wow.
See, and that's why we do podcasts, so we can find out all these little different kinds of things that can be interesting.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And of course, you're always such a great source. And I mean, there's never nothing to talk to Kathy about because she's always doing something. I was saying, the Energizer Bunny is doing commercials, speaking on Westerns, doing all kinds of fan events. It's just now that COVID's kind of in the rearview mirror, you're working a lot more, I would assume, or making more event appearances. Is that happening or going to happen this coming year?
Yeah, I finished one movie, Old Man Jackson, and that is going to premiere in January. And then I did another one. I starred in a movie called Yellowbird this year. And that just premiered. Well, this first showing was at the American Film Mart, and that will also be out. And even during COVID, I had flown back to Ohio when we did the pilot for my show TV Dinners, which is a reality show where I have different celebrities on, like Butch Patrick was on our pilot, and he did, the Munsters, and we made this meal and caught up with him, and it's kind of a look back into the 60s, but it's a healthy makeover of those TV frozen dinners that we had. So we did that pilot, and I have that new book that will be coming out next year, the TV Dinners TV book. And so that's all going. And then I recorded a couple of audiobooks, which are coming out. We just finished Becoming Thelma Lou, my journey to Hollywood and Mayberry and beyond, and that was about Betty Lynn. And so she conferred with her 2 authors, Jim Clark and Tim Maccabee, and they made the book, and then I recorded it. So that'll be available soon. And then I do these books for my friend Dr. Fred Eichelman. He does a Happy Trails Festival every year, but he's a teacher. And Dr. Fred is just a wonderful author, and he started out on these series. He loves cats, he and his wife, A Cat's Tale of the Nativity, which is so fitting for the holiday season, and then A Cat's Tale of the Resurrection and the Spirit. Well, his newest one is A Cat's Tale of Heaven, which I just finished recording and sent on to him, and that will be out in December, and they're all available on Amazon. Our friend Amazon just has everything from 3-inch nails that I just got for repair for our tile roof to A Cat's Tale of Heaven.
Isn't that great? And it all gets delivered right to your door. Well,
it's amazing to me. And what amazes me that you could buy something for like $8 and they'll have it to you the next day.
Yeah.
Or if you order within like 3 hours, I ordered a whole big shed, a gardening shed that was here in 2 days that my fabulous, talented son put together in like an hour and a half.
Oh, I was going to say, we did the same thing. Can Reed come over and put it together for me?
He's so good. Now, if we were up in Northern California, I'd send him right down.
Yes. It's like put tab A into slot B and make sure you use this screw with the correct washer. Oops, sorry, you made the wrong one. You did the wrong one about 6 moves back. You got to take it all apart again. That's me.
Oh, well, and, for this particular shed, the review said, oh, it's really nice and it's durable and all that, but it's really difficult to put together. And so I was hesitant, but I got it, and there he did it. I swear to God, perfectly.
Oh, he probably prefers it that way, I'm guessing.
Yes. And I tell him, you know why, Reed? Because you had such a wonderful mother, and we did puzzles all the time, and you learned how to put all those pieces of the puzzle together. You're welcome.
You do owe it all to me. But I love you anyway.
Yes. I remind him of that a lot.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I think this will be episode 10 of my podcast. I have it out in a couple of weeks. And can you tell folks where they can find you on social media real quick?
Sure. It's Kathy Garver fan page, or my personal one is Kathy Garver. And Instagram is at KGSissy. And you can get all my stuff on my website at kathygarver.com, or you can go to Amazon, where a lot of my stuff is as well.
Yeah.
And Audible.
And it's all great. Trust me on that, folks. I've got it in my hands right now. I have tangible evidence right here that it is all high quality, entertaining, wonderful stuff. Yeah, you do it right, Kathy, as usual. And Reed owes you a lot.
He does. And I will never let him forget that.
I'm in the same boat. I owe you a lot. It's been a few years now, and I knew you were there to support me right from the get-go, and that has not changed, and I simply can't thank you enough for that.
Well, my pleasure. I mean, I instantly liked you, and I so admire, as I say, how you have started and gone from one thing to another to build such a nice platform. And I know it's going to do very well. And I want to wish you a very happy birthday today. And I hope you have wonderful holidays. And I know you will.
Oh, thank you so much. And of course, same to you. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to the wonderful Kathy Garver. And yeah, you hear it, right? You hear what I hear. She's amazing, and she never stops. I don't want her to ever stop. That's the fact. So thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Pat.
So there you have it, another Retro TV Trivia episode in the books. Remember to check out Kathy's online store, which I'll leave the link to in my description. And be sure to follow Kathy Garver on all the various forms of social media. You'll find links to those too, and you'll see for yourself why I call her the Energizer Bunny. Please take the time to like and subscribe to this podcast. A positive rating and review would be appreciated, or just share it with the world. You can also follow me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Golden Rage of TV, and on Twitter at Golden Rage of TV1. Until next time, I'm your host, Pat McCormack, and thanks for listening to Retro TV Trivia.